Hello, welcome to David's Den. I am David and I make videos about Stephen King, his novels, his short stories, and any adaptations that were made for film or television. Today we're going to be looking at the short film adaptation of the short story The Boogeyman from Stephen King's collection Night Shift, which was published in 1978. Now, The Boogeyman, I believe, was published originally in 1971 as a short story for Cavalier magazine. I made a note and then forgot to bring the note with me about the year. It's either 71 or 72 from the two stories I was researching recently. If you are watching here on YouTube, I'm going to go through the short film, which is from 1982, actually. Where are my notes that I did bring with me? Hold on. It was posted here on YouTube by Media Archive, and it's part of the collection, The Night Shift Collection, which is actually two short films. One is The Boogeyman, and one is the first Dollar Baby short, where Frank Darabont, now famous for directing things like Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, went to Stephen King and said, hey, I want to adapt one of your short stories. And it started this idea that Stephen King now lets filmmakers, young filmmakers and student filmmakers, buy the rights to shoot short film adaptations for only $1 of his short stories. So it gets really exciting. These are two of the first ones, and you can tell from the quality of the video that somebody transposed the actual VHS. So it's not the best video visual quality. I kind of skimmed through it. I have not watched this yet in its entirety. Oh, I wanted to tell you too that The Woman in the Room, which I have not watched yet, it's the final story in Night Shift Collection, and we will be getting to it, is the first short film in this. So if you want to wait until we get to The Woman in the Room, kind of the way I'm doing, you can skip right to 30 minutes and 27 seconds, and that's where The Boogeyman gets started. I should also probably catch you up if you don't remember the short story. If you haven't read it, you can always check out my Night Shift reading vlogs to see my thoughts on The Boogeyman. It's about a man, Lester Billings, who goes into a psychiatrist's office and says, hey, I just want to get this off my chest. No one's going to believe me. I killed my kids. No, I didn't actually kill my 3 children, but I'm responsible for it because I didn't protect them. I didn't raise them right. Really, it gets to the heart of parents' responsibilities. Like, he and his wife in the short story have an argument over whether or not to put a nightlight in the room, or is that coddling the child so he will be fearful his whole life, right? Our guy Lester Billings takes a real strong stance about a man needs to be a man and the head of the household, and the woman has a place, and this is how children are raised, and it's very almost militant. There are moments in the short story where he knows that he's wrong, but goes with his ideals anyway, and his kids end up dead. So he goes into this psychiatrist's office, he sits down, and he says, I want to tell you this story. I'm not one of your crazy people. I just need to say this, and no one will believe me. It would be better if I were in prison, because then I could see everything. There are no closed doors in prison. No place for the boogeyman who killed my children to hide. So that is the basic premise without spoilers of the short story. From this point forward, spoilers for the short film, which was directed by Jeff Shiro, and it's starring Michael Earl Reed and Burt Linder. And Jeff Shiro is actually the one who put this VHS 2 short film compilation together. He's listed as the editor on IMDb. So I guess it's time to start the story now. I love this story. I'm really excited. That music is so 80s, that electronica. Why is he suddenly afraid of it? Oh, because he saw the blood spot. Okay, so the kid is not supposed to be in a bathtub if we're going with the short story, but I kind of like this, and I don't know what he was talking about with the f*** yous, and I should have taken all the cola cans. I don't know what that's supposed to reference or mean. I hope the cola can idea comes back. I like this reveal of the first child, though. Yeah, in the short story, all of the deaths happen in the bedroom, usually in the cribs because they're young children, and they're pointing and saying Boogeyman to the closet, and the closet door after their death is always just a little bit open. So I hope we're going to go back and see how this happened. Well, I guess that's the premise of the short story, right? It all happened, and then we're at the psychiatrist's office, so I'm guessing that's how we're going to go here.
She's a friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time, and I'd like to find out if anything...
Everything is going to be just...
Look at this, feels like porno acting. I do really like how they've created this kind of the exposition that we get in the story. We're seeing this police investigation happen. It's thrown away in the story. It's, yeah, they said it was crib death and they bought it. They didn't arrest me. They did investigate, and that's all we get. So I like that they're fleshing the story out a little bit, and it is definitely within keeping of the short film. I am the trump of
Mr. Billings
cop.
was the body when you found it. Don't you find it rather strange that the same thing happened to you less than 3 months ago?
I don't think it was 3 months. Was it only 3 months in the short story between the two deaths? I thought it was longer. Yeah, Denny dies. Then he moves Sherlyn there, saying he replaced the mattress, though. Same crib, same room, but he didn't want her getting germs. But they had the other child before Sherlyn died. And Denny was already dead when the third child was born. And here we're seeing the third child already in mom's lap. So I guess they've truncated the timeline quite a bit for the kids' ages and when they died. Okay, so this would be the actual start of the short story, I guess.
Tell me, Mr. Billings, exactly how were the children murdered?
Look, don't try to jerk it out of me. I'll tell you, okay? And I'm not one of your freaks.
Okay, this is dialogue right from the short story, and Lester is kind of a snappy, don't jerk it out of me, I'm going to tell you. But I just feel like this performance is, I'm totally taking the angry defensive approach right off the bat without much nuance. And in the short story, although maybe we don't agree or kind of abhor Lester's decisions and his outlook on life and parenting, there is a likability about the character. We do feel for him because in spite of his actions, he really did and does love these children. So this guy just being so, God, don't, right off the bat, it's more of a caricature, and I want a little more nuance in the story because it actually is touching. It's really a metaphor for the fears of being a parent and failing at being a parent. So I want to be able to like the guy and root for him to be a good parent and feel bad when it all goes south. And I don't like this guy.
Just came out of the closet, killed him.
You think I'm crazy, all right? It's written all over you. But I don't care. Just to tell will be enough.
I think it's also very interesting that the dialogue for what they fleshed out, the stuff with the police officer, the detectives, the neighbors, that's not in the short story is very simply written. It's very get to the point. It's not natural at all. And while Stephen King wrote dialogue to be read in a short story, not heard in a film, and there are different techniques there. There's definitely different techniques because we read things differently than we hear them in how we receive that information and those words. I do think it's interesting that there's a little bit more of a naturalism to the dialogue, even though the acting is still kind of one-dimensional. For this part, because we're taking the dialogue directly from the short story. These are now Stephen King's words. Wait, stop, cut. Bruni, don't do that. Dude, he's allowed to pee, Bruni. You're both allowed to pee. Cats. Okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit.
Boogeyman killed him.
Don't do that.
Came out of the closet, killed him.
Came out of the closet. What if this is actually a metaphor for the gays are taking over?
You think I'm crazy, all right? We were sleeping.
I like the jump cut. What do they call it? There's a word for it, I forget. where it's the exact same shot. It ties the story together.
She teach you that?
Just from the short
There's
story.
no such thing as the boogeyman.
Did Mommy teach you about the boogeyman? Who taught you that word?
Come on, lay down and go to sleep. Listen, you're gonna wake up. Will you just stop?
In other words, Mom's the bad parent because I didn't fill your head with stupid ideas, that silly woman. So we're keeping all of those character traits, and I think they're highlighting that they're not that great. Where the beauty of the short stories, it just lets him be that person, and we get to judge it from the surrounding circumstances as the reader, as the audience member.
Kid, sometimes, you know, you could just...
I do love that touch from the short story. Sometimes you could just kill him.
Anyway.
Uh-oh, I'm telling you, I killed my children.
But I did notice one thing. It didn't mean much to me then, but my mind, it stored it away, see?
What's that?
The closet door was open.
Yeah, I just feel like this franticness is put on rather than lived in
Not much, just a crack.
by the actor.
See, I knew I left it shut. I mean, Rita still loved me. I mean, she knew her place. She knew her station in life. I mean, I'm the king of the castle, right?
Just from the short story.
I mean, I loved having the...
Although they did abbreviate that, because if I remember right, he's trying to find the right words, and the psychiatrist provides her station in life. Oh, changing the timeline of the children's births also negates the I think my wife trapped me after the first two children died by getting pregnant again. And there's a whole thing about her IUD failing, and it's all about I am the man that's being put upon rather than accepting and loving and and doing his best in spite of the fear. It's letting the fear get hold of him, the anxiety, the distrust. It all adds to his despicability of choices, but our understanding of him as a person. The score really does add a lot to this. It makes these moments. Here's the sound from upstairs. Okay, so in the short story, there's an element where he puts him to bed and he knows that something's wrong. But to teach the kid a lesson, to make him brave, he doesn't go upstairs. And then when he finally does, I believe that's the one, the final one is where the kid has fallen out of the crib and just a little bit of blood's coming out of his ear. So we'll see if that's how this happens. Oh, you know, we still have the tub. I'll bet we're flashing back to the tub. Which I guess blood in the nose. I still don't know how he got into the tub. But the other part of that I forgot to mention is that they move. They switch houses before the third child dies, and they have a year of a reprieve. And he theorizes that the boogeyman was hunting them, smelling around every night, trying to find their house again.
Maybe if you think of a thing long enough and you believe in it, maybe it becomes real. Maybe all the things we were afraid of as kids, you know, the monsters like Frankenstein, huh? Wolfman, a mummy.
Dialogue from the short story.
Shut up! Shut up!
Okay, he doesn't lose it like this in the short story in the psych's office, but I do like these jump cuts back and forth to tie everything in together. Which also reminds us of the dream we just watched, right? Your kid is crawling out of the crib and you gonna run away. No wonder the kid fell. Bruni, why are you attacking the shower curtain? No, I hear you. You're being crazy. I love the less is more effect with the special effects, right? We're going to put in the strobe light and rip a mask off and just have a hint of something. So it's truly terrifying without giving us something that is obviously a fake mold.
Maybe it becomes real. Maybe all the things we were afraid of as kids, you know, the monsters like Frankenstein, huh? Wolfman, a mummy.
I guess we're gonna get the theme back at us in the credits, huh? So yeah, I think that that less is more is really great for the special effects. I wish that the quality of the video was better just because I want to be able to see it a little better. It seems like they did some really cool things with the lighting. Let's take a step back from the short story for a second and just look at this as a film on its own. I think that the suspense was there. A lot of that had to do with the score, the quick cuts, and what they chose to focus on. The doorway, the darkness of the hallway as he came through and we didn't see what was happening in the other room. So I think that element, the suspense, was really strong. The screenplay was okay. I think that when you figure all those cuts and all of these ideas of we're in this room, we're in that room, if it was written into the screenplay, which I believe it probably was, that's really great. The dialogue is where I have a little pause. And the stuff that was written by Stephen King in the short story that was just transferred does read a little better in the actors' mouths than the kind of archetype tropey dialogue that they wrote to flesh out the story with the police investigation and the call to the coroner. Direction is good, especially when we consider the way that it was edited with that less is more concept. I think that the acting, our psychiatrist, what was his name? Burt Linder as Dr. Harper is just charming and puts us at ease and also gives us, the audience, kind of a way in to be like, yeah, this guy's kind of nuts. And he gives us those reactions that we're feeling that validates our thoughts of the story until that twist at the end, which is fantastic. Again, in that less is more, I love what they did. And that score at that moment, the score all the way through was fantastic, and especially in terms of helping that suspense, things that were just a little discordant or off kilter, the use of the electronica at certain points, the rhythms to hype up our internal sensory experience. But I think that our Michael Earl Reed, Lester Billings, the guy who played Lester Billings, is just a little... He focused on the way we would describe the outer elements of the character and didn't take a lot of time to explore the inner world. So we got a caricature instead of a real person. I don't think it was bad enough to detract from the story overall. It hyped up my dislike for him, and I'm not sure if that was the goal of Jeff Shiro, the director, or not. So I think as a film, certain elements of it worked. Certain elements of it didn't, but nothing detracted. And I think that I'm going to go with 3 stars for The Boogeyman, the short film. Now, if we want to revisit this as an adaptation, it is a pretty straightforward adaptation. There are things that were modified, like the disparity of the children's ages, the timeline that all of this happens in. There were things that were fleshed out that we are given to believe happened that we don't get in the short story, like the police investigation, the call to the coroner. It's just an offhand line that it was ruled a crib death. That's what the coroner said, as Lester is talking to the psychiatrist. So I think fleshing all of that out was nice. I just wish the dialogue was a little bit better and the acting not so tropey for the police officer or the neighbors. I do think that the theme of the fear of fatherhood, the fear of being a parent and doing something wrong to your children is definitely still there. It's inherent in the story. But if you watch all the way through to the credits and that piece coming back about what if all of the things we were scared of and imagined as children are actually real. Frankenstein, the mummy, the boogeyman is our rationalization for the things we can't cope with, like a child falling into a lake. That seems to be what the director stumbled onto as his primary theme. And that's a perfectly valid reading of the short story. And in that respect, I think it worked. In terms of the theme of the parenthood, it's only still there because it's inherent in the story, not because the director or the writer chose to focus on it. And in my opinion, I think that was a misstep. So I can't give this a perfect score as an adaptation, but it is really strong. And for The Boogeyman, 1982 short film, as an adaptation of the short story by Stephen King, we're going a solid 4 stars. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in to this watch-along if you're here on Patreon, and to the highlights of the watch-along for my movie review vlog for Night Shift as we go through the book here on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate your support. And coming up next, I believe, is going to be night shift reading vlog where we get into the next 3 stories. Where's my schedule? And after that, we're going to be doing the watch along and movie vlog for Gray Matter, which is actually the very first episode of the new series, the newer series, Creepshow, which I believe is still running. It has 3 seasons in, and it opened in 2019 with its first episode. Hi, Hugo. He likes to be in the shot and ruin the shot. The first episode was first episode of Creepshow was Creepshow. I believe it's a 2-parter with 2 different films or stories that were put in. I guess they're not short films, they were TV episodes. And the first one in there is Gray Matter. So I'm really excited for that. They did a similar thing with Battleground, starring William Hurt. That was the first episode of Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which was a collection, a television story, a television show story, a television series, that's the word I'm looking for, that really kind of came up with some of its own short stories, but also used Stephen King. Unless that was Creepshow and I'm mixing them up, it may be all Stephen King. Again, I haven't watched all of it. In fact, I haven't even watched Battleground yet. I just know it exists and it has William Hurt, and I'm really fucking excited. Okay, guys, so thank you so much. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. It really helps me out as a new channel. Links for Patreon and all my social media if you want to support me or follow me are down below. I'll see you next time.